The first narrative is set in a video game store and is a retail story. I worked at a used video game business a few years back. An adolescent entered while I was working on the morning inventory behind the counter. "Hey, I pre-ordered a copy of, insert game name here, last week," the teenager says. "Has it arrived yet? I will verify that for you. Have you got identification?" He is only 17 years old, according to his ID. I was unable to convince him to buy the game he had pre-ordered since it was classified M. I apologize, but it appears that this game is rated M. Since you are younger than 18, I am unable to sell it to you. Does the car contain one of your parents? No, teenager, I want the game, I paid for it. I want nothing more than to offer it to you, I promise. You are correct that you get paid for it, however I am unable to sell it to you due to business policy. Do you know who I am, teenager? Are you familiar with my father? I am on your side, friend. I wish I could sell you the game, but I can't. I can give it to you then if you only come with your parents, your elder brother, or even an older friend. Enjoy the unemployment line, teen. He leaves, and I do not give it any more thought. This occurs once every 7 days. My supervisor phones me the next day and requests that we meet before my shift at the copy business next door. This is what he usually does to review monthly figures. Thank you for meeting me, manager. Yes, me. Did a child come in yesterday, manager, requesting to buy a game that he had pre-ordered? Yes, I did, but I did not sell anything to him because he was not of legal age. I then review the discussion with my supervisor. Manager, I understand you adhere to the rules, however the father of that child is a reputable local businessman. My boss called me after the boy's father called him. I apologize, but I must let you go. Are you serious, me? For adhering to the company's guidelines? Yes, manager, that is awful, but the father, who has a lot of power in the community, says we should let you go. And here I am. However, you receive 2 weeks of severance. Your shift is not a concern for you today. I am taking your place. I need your badge and key. In a flash, I had lost my job. Everything as a result of my adherence to company policies. This is not possible. Do you know my father? Is probably one of the most embarrassing things someone can say. In this instance, the youngster urged him to enjoy being unemployed, and the man lost his job as a result. That is really depressing. For the small inconvenience of this child not being able to get the video game he wanted when he wanted it. After all, if they would not let him leave, what would happen to this video game store? Will they set fire to the entire business? I mean, is there a threat that is implied? What specifically might have happened for them to have to fire him for adhering to company policy? Probably because he did not want to jeopardize his career, he did not sell it to him, but he probably never would have imagined that doing so would lose him his job nonetheless. Do you know who my father is, really? That is what most people say. Actually, you do not have a parent who would cause you to lose your work. But he did in this instance. And it is terrible because, considering the situation, it seems like the guy was treating him quite nicely. However, please share your thoughts with me. If you were in this circumstance, how would you respond? And do you believe that he was the NDH? For revealing the truth and spoiling game night, Diaries Hub. I threw a gaming night for a few pals a few nights ago. In my nation, we had all been quarantining and adhering to the correct protocols. With me included, there would only be 5 of us. However, a buddy of mine texted me at the last minute to let me know that she would be bringing a coworker, Noah, from work. That is okay with me. We began by playing a card game in which you have to respond to questions about yourself according to your level, level 1, level 2, or level 3. It can be a really superficial question. What is your favorite color, for instance? To something more profound, such as what aspect of yourself do you dislike? I was pleased with how things were going and everyone was having a good time. I drew a question. What has been the most difficult experience you have ever had? Some backstory. I was in high school when my sister died a few years ago. I watched her die in the intensive care unit after being dragged out of class and sent straight to her college. It goes without saying that this is quite likely the most difficult thing I have ever experienced. In the group, 3 of my buddies were aware of this. Noah and the other 2 didn't. I did not want to ruin the atmosphere. I replied that moving to a college in a different state where I knew no one was the most difficult thing I had ever experienced. When Noah stated, "Wow, if that is the hardest thing you have ever been through, you have lived an extremely privileged life," we were all prepared to move on. Everyone fell silent. Now, I think I would have forgiven him and gone on if he had said it in jest. But he did so in a tone that was really dismissive and condescending. Additionally, I will admit that it annoyed me. I refused to let it go, instead saying, "Well, seeing my sister die in the intensive care unit and having to watch her being lowered into the grave when I was 18 years old is the hardest thing I have ever gone through." I simply did not want to ruin the atmosphere. It was dead silent now, if it had been quiet before. After Noah muttered an apology, gaming night was over. My friend who had brought Noah texted me after my friends had all departed, accusing me of being an NDH for making Noah appear awful. And I could have simply ignored what he said. I regret what I said and for being the reason that game night ended so quickly. However, I also believe that I was merely stating something that was justified. Hub for Night Diaries. Noah's statement that he leads a privileged life was obviously not taken in jest by the original poster. However, it is possible that Noah thought he was kidding when he said it, and it just came out strange. Because it is difficult to fathom someone you do not even know attempting to approach you in such a serious manner when they first meet you. I mean, it might actually happen. However, it seems more plausible to me that he was merely making jokes. It most likely just fell horribly. Additionally, Noah was likely thinking about his own traumas. I have no doubt that each member of that gang has their own traumas. Everybody on the planet has experienced trauma. And Noah was most likely thinking about himself. And if he was attempting to be somewhat hostile or spiteful, it could have been because he was reflecting on whatever the most difficult thing he had ever had to cope with in his life was. However, I do not believe the OP's response was flawed in any way. It is kind of like what Noah asked, really. Whether directly or indirectly, he forced him to say it. So he said it. That does not necessarily reflect poorly on Noah, in my opinion. Both Noah and the OP expressed their opinions. However, I have a new question for you all. What has been the most difficult experience you have ever had? And for revealing the truth and spoiling game night, was he the NDH or not? For disregarding a coworker who would not find out my true name, Night Diaries Hub. I have spent 9 years working at my current office. The majority of my coworkers and management get along well with me. A new employee was brought on for a 6-month probationary period 5 months ago. I am unquestionably a senior employee, even if I am not a supervisor. He is an NDH, so I will call him James. James was being introduced to individuals by the supervisor. "This is Oliver," he remarked as he approached me. It explained what I did. James. "Hello, Elijah." "I am. Oliver is here." James. "What?" "Me. Oliver, not Elijah, is my name." James. "For me, it is close enough." Supervisor. "Oliver is his name, not Elijah. Let us go forward." This went on for several months. He kept using the name Elijah even after managers reminded him to stop referring to me while I was not there. I told him at last, "You either use my name or I ignore you completely, no matter what." "Sure thing, Elijah boy," he replied. I thought, forget it, as I do not work directly with him. I would disregard him. He recently needed to rent a car for a 2-day business trip. James approached me and said, "Hey, Elijah," because I occasionally work late. When I return, I will be dropping off the rental car at 7. For a lift back to the office, I will see you there. There is a drop box, and they closed at 6. I disregarded him like I had promised. 7 to 15 comes around. I receive a call the night he drops it off. I ignore it because I know his number. He gave me 7 more calls. Then begins sending emails. The first one went something like, I am at Enterprise, Elijah. Come get me. Every 10 to 15 minutes, I get a barrage of emails calling me Elijah, Elijahho, Elijahhi, and Elijahhi boy. Additionally, the emails begin to contain a few threats along with foul language. I headed home after signing out. It was pouring rain. I noticed James had sent a couple more emails the following morning. I printed them out. He yells, "Where the hell were you?" as he rushes to my desk at 10 in the morning. I requested that you come get me. I was forced to hail a cab. How much did that cost me, do you know? He continued in that manner for a while until a supervisor arrived, dragged him away, and requested to talk to me. James, the supervisor, informs me that when he dropped off the rental, you disregarded his request for a pickup. The downpour grabbed him outside. I informed him of the situation and showed him the printed emails. I had pointed out every danger. Supervisor leaving him trapped in the rain was a bit inconsiderate, but I can understand why you would not want to spend time with him. He might have been hurt, and that is not the best area. He no longer works here due to the threats and the fact that he is on probation, he groaned. Just make an effort to avoid being an NDH in revenge against your colleagues. I am the NDH for neglecting James and agitating him, which resulted to his termination, according to several comments made by coworkers. On this, Night Diaries Hub. There are folks out there that intentionally call you by the wrong name as part of their gimmick or something. It is the erroneous name, not a nickname. Furthermore, it is particularly strange when someone explicitly requests that you address them by their real name. James was not surprised by the OP here, really. He simply stated, I will ignore you if you do not show me common courtesy and address me by name. James's level of surprise and his inability to comprehend why he was not being picked up is really odd. It is possible that he assumed Oliver would just give in and take him up anyhow. James may have been using this as a power maneuver to try to put Oliver in his place by calling him by the wrong name, denying him even the honor of using his own name. However, without knowing more about his particular desire to be called by his true name, as well as how and why he said it, it is difficult to determine. The OP later stated that he had heard off the record that they were going to can him anyhow, and that this man most likely would not survive past the 6-month mark. Additionally, several others appear to believe that the supervisor most likely used this wording to cover the management. If someone you worked with did not address you by name when you asked for it, how would you respond? And is Oliver, in your opinion, the NDH here? Is Night Diaries Hub responsible for my friends having to intervene on my behalf because I pretended to be an applitarian and consumed only apple-derived foods and beverages for 3 weeks as a prank? I came up with the notion a few weeks ago to play a practical joke on my friends by posing as an applitarian, someone who only consumes foods made from apples, and drinking only apple juice or apple cider. I informed them that eating only apples was the healthiest thing I had ever read online. They assumed I was kidding when I first informed them, but they did not realize how dedicated I would be to a joke. I therefore took great care to only be seen eating apples or drinking apple juice, sometimes known as apple cider, while I was around friends, friends of friends, co-workers, etc., who knew them. Whole apples, chopped apples, apple sauce, baked apples, candied apples, apples with the chocolate removed, and so on. After a week or so, they finally believed that I had turned into an applitarian. They became more and more irritated with me as they began to inform me about the health risks of eating only apples. I wanted to keep the joke going even if some of them became upset. 3 weeks later, I finally entered what I was informed was a movie night, but it turned out to be an intervention for me. They all had various pieces of information and were really worried about my health. At last, I burst out laughing uncontrollably. I informed them that I had been pretending all along and that I had been eating actual meals without them knowing because they were so perplexed. To prove it, I even pulled some beef ndhe out of my jeans pocket and ate it. I assumed they would find the joke funny, but they were irritated. My girlfriend even ended our relationship because I embarrassed her with a stupid joke a few days ago when I told the server that I was an applitarian and that all I wanted was apples. The joke, in my opinion, was sound, and they ought to have recognized my dedication to the practical joke. Did I go too far, though? This is strangely particular, but it is also kind of wonderful. Why, of all things, did he decide to become an applitarian? Did he pick this at random, or was there a connection to the friend group's past with apples? It is perhaps a good thing that his partner is ending their relationship. It is generally preferable to end things now rather than later if your girlfriend is planning to terminate things because of something like that. Around the middle of this story, I had the feeling that he might be trying to hide his own apple fixation by telling his pals that it was all a joke and that he was not actually an applitarian. Perhaps he is. Perhaps this beef ndhe was actually apple ndhe, which is designed to resemble beef ndhe in order to keep eating apples. In fact, there is a portion in Steve Jobs' book that discusses how he spent a lot of time eating solely apples or carrots. And he really did that, it was not a joke. Another disadvantage of an apple-only or carrot-only diet, according to an NBC report on Steve Jobs' diet at the time, is that you are not gaining enough body fat. They then cite a physician who states that your body's fat reserves are depleted if you do not consume enough fat from your diet. Your organs and bodily tissue may be more susceptible to damage, which is particularly dangerous for people with chronic illnesses. Your skin may deteriorate, and you may experience colder spells more frequently. Therefore, a diet consisting solely of apples is generally not a healthy choice. However, please share your thoughts with me. For posing as an applitarian, is he the ndh or not? Why am I upset about my boyfriend's male evenings, night Diaries Hub? Thus, my partner C and I have the same social circle. I am one of 3 girls and 5 guys in our group who are all dating men. For background, I began dating C more over a year ago, and I was first introduced to the group 5 years ago. A year before to our dating, he joined. Now, let us get to the story. Guys' evenings are a time when the boys in my friend group go out and do all the things we do together, but without the girls. The thing is this. Every friend I have is a boy. The girls in the group are not people I know very well. Even while I have friends outside of the group, we are not quite as close as we are in this one. They claim that they need to hang out with their pals and that they would have to invite their girlfriends if I went. And that does not happen very often. I can only go out on Saturdays, which is once every 2 weeks. In other words, I am stranded at home alone while my boyfriend goes out with all of my pals. Even worse, they always bring up the things that happen on guys' nights when we all get together, claiming that you had to be there. Months had passed during this time. When my partner arrived at my house from guys' night last night, he was beaming and texting his pals when I asked him why I could not join him. I was not a guy, he said, gesturing hazily at my crotch and chest. He rolled his eyes when I asked him why he could not miss it so he could stay with me overnight. I went crazy. When I informed him how awful it is, I began to cry, shout, and call him an ndh for letting me be totally alone. In the end, he called me a b and left. He is staying with one of our friends, who claims that my yelling at him was the ndh. I am not sure if I should apologize, but the females all agree with me. Hub for Night Diaries. The primary problem here, in my opinion, is that he is going out and doing this while leaving her at home on the night that she is truly available. There is nothing wrong with wanting to do things with your friends. Rearranging the date to a day when she is not available seems like the best course of action because she will be preoccupied with work or whatever else she has going on, and he will be able to spend time with his friends. She will not feel like she is wasting her one free day if that is what it is, and he will be able to continue having guys-only hangout time if that is important to him. She also explains that the reason she is only available once a week is because she works full-time and looks after her grandfather. She is free on Saturdays, which is the only night she can go out since her grandfather's friend comes over to, I presume, look after him. They simply need to reschedule when this occurs if her schedule is that constrained. However, please share your thoughts with me. Does her anger about her boyfriend's man nights make her the NDH or not? And if this were you, how would you respond?